So finally,
Third time?
third time's the charm. What's it been, like 3 months? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, November, I think.
Since our first recording.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't work out.
New phones later.
Yeah. Anyway, so really, I think I'm not even sure where the conversation should go at this point, because it's been so long since we had that I had the conversation with Eric.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, new things happen and new thoughts happen, and
touching back to the conversation you had with Eric, I think it was about like marriage and
yeah, there's a lot of marriage stuff, which I would prefer having like this format of conversation versus like talking at the camera kind of thing. But you know, I think you get a little bit farther one-on-one.
Yeah, I think so too.
You can cover a lot more grounds, and you can kind of push those rabbit trails a little bit more than just like telling the society how they should live.
Yeah. So since then, we have done lots of things.
Yeah. Lots of things.
Yeah, we started our whole food diet changing.
Yeah.
Since then.
Yeah. So we've cut out.
Oh, the big thing, it started with, I mean, there's been a lot of things that have issues that have come up that have since gone away that we didn't realize were even issues. But the big one that I remember is Ian struggled so bad, like with his focus, right? And I knew there was a problem, and we all struggled with our focus. Yeah, I thought it was vaccine related, which it definitely could still be. But then you came across, it's not a doctor. I can never remember his name. The folic acid guy. On Joe Rogan.
Gary Brecka.
Yeah.
Gary.
So, listening to his podcast, which I saw a few videos of him on Facebook, and I really liked what he was saying, and it made a lot of sense. And then the more we dug, more it was, try to cut out folic acid, which folic acid came to find out was in all of your flour products and crackers and bread and cereal and pasta and literally everything.
But let's maybe explain what is folic acid. Like, how does it get into the food?
So folic acid, you'll have to help me out because there's a lot of,
from what I
understand, back in the
finishing each other's sentences
90s, they started spraying anything grain in the United States with folic acid. Right?
Yeah.
Your body produces methylfolate, which is how you break down your food and digestion and enzymes. But folic acid is the synthetic.
The synthetic
version.
version.
Which we've been pushed, like pregnant women are pushed to take, vitamins with folic acid. Like, I remember when I was pregnant with Ian and Kendall, the doctor told you to look for prenatal vitamins that had folic acid in it, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Not even the natural version. They want you to take the synthetic.
But they don't tell you that because we're not educated. So... his suggestion was just cut out folic acid, and in doing so, we ended up filtering. I mean, the only way you can filter out your folic acid is by swapping to organic flours. So, started buying organic pasta and crackers, and I started making all sorts of breads. I made bagels today.
And it's been a lot of trial and error, and let me tell you, it has been some delicious errors.
Bagels the other day fell so flat and it was so disappointing, but
I ate them.
They still tasted fine.
That's delicious.
In doing so, I think it was the first 2 weeks. You didn't really notice anything the first 2 weeks. And then, personally, I could not remember sequences of numbers. I struggle so bad, even like
phone numbers,
3 to 6 numbers. I couldn't even like remember that.
social security numbers.
I could remember
addresses,
that, but like
account numbers, things like that.
account numbers. Oh yeah,
Passwords,
yeah, dates, anything
Yeah.
like that. Couldn't do it. And when we got the kids' phones, I noticed I was able to, because there's a lot of like little passwords and stuff resets, and I noticed I was starting to easily be able to not only remember, but like remember or look at it and like shut the phone off and like have a short little conversation and then still remember the numbers, which is mind-blowing. Like, it's been years since that happened.
Recall.
Yeah.
Mental clarity in the recall.
So about 2 weeks in, you noticed you started sleeping better. I noticed I could remember things. Ian said that his focus was getting better in school.
We've been cutting out a lot of
Processed
sugar.
Oh yeah, we cut out processed sugar.
Not that sugar isn't getting into the diet in other places, but
It does.
It's at least making the conscious effort of like,
I am not adding it into things.
Yeah, like you're not adding it into things, but also like making that individual choice of I'm going to skip out on the candy bar or the pastry.
Yeah.
Versus, have some fruit, because I can tell you like there's a lot of times where I just want to go like get a triple bowl of oatmeal with some brown sugar and maple syrup and
I mean, the craving, your body does, you will crave it, and that. So we got one of our neighbors came across a deal, and we were able to get a 5-gallon bucket of honey.
Oh, yeah.
For really cheaply.
So that's actually helped out a lot.
Like unfiltered.
Yeah. Hey, shout
local honey.
Shout out to Jerry Gammon for finding that deal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we would definitely do it again. So we fairly quickly and easily were able to not completely swap, but almost everything I can just use honey versus cane sugar. And over the holidays, I still did use I bought some organic cane sugar, but it was like a small container of it, and I've only used like half a cup of it, and it's still sitting in the pantry, so that's cool. So cutting out processed sugars and cutting out bullshit flour, and you know this, like my knees have been on fire for years.
We talked about that, but also we've been doing some cold plunges too, so that might be helping with the inflammation.
It could, but I noticed last night my knees have not hurt.
It's amazing.
For a while.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like my knees would be on fire, like hot to the touch by noon.
Slowly making that crawl towards a more natural and sustainable lifestyle. And on top of that, you can see the tiny little benefits as we're going that direction.
For sure.
And it seems like it takes forever as you're doing it.
Yep. And it feels expensive.
4 or 5 years into that conscious decision making, and it's finally starting to be like, oh, okay, all right.
There it is.
I feel it.
Yep.
I feel a little looser here.
Throwing out Teflon.
Doesn't hurt so bad here.
Yep.
Getting rid of Teflon.
Yep.
Getting rid of plastics.
Yep. We purged. I found a lot of glass containers that we swapped our Tupperware for.
Yeah.
Threw out the Tupperware.
Yeah.
Threw out the plastic cutting boards. That was nice.
And getting outside a little bit more during winter.
Yep. Getting outside.
Helps. Even though it's cold and sucks.
Oh, the cold plunge. Why don't you talk about the cold plunge a little bit?
The cold plunge?
That's been nice.
It sucks.
But it feels great afterwards.
Like that first little plunge in, and then you're like, I'm like 20 seconds and get out.
Yeah.
And then you kind of stand there for a second. It's okay, all right. Actually, I want to go do it again. Which that's the weird thing. Is like it sucks the first time, and then you get out and you stand there for a
Yeah.
second, and you're like, oh, you know what? Like,
I'm gonna do it again.
I want to go do it again.
And the kids do it.
And the kids do
like,
it.
Kendall's loved it, and it's.
Kendall goes nuts for it. Ian.
I think he knows it feels good. It still sucks. Like when you have to break the ice on the top to crawl in it.
Well,
like that.
When he spent like 4 minutes in 31-degree water.
When did he do that?
37-degree water. Yeah, he spent 4 minutes in 37-degree water just sitting there, and he's just like floating his hands around. He's like, yeah, it sucked for like the first minute and a half, but like now, like I don't even feel anything. I'm like, all right, man. Like it's been 4 minutes. Your lips are turning blue. Let's go.
And by getting in the cold plunge, the health benefits. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the health benefits is it actually your body creates certain cold and heat shock proteins, and by getting into the cold water and shocking your body, it creates what is it? It's brown fat. Yeah, you get better brown fat, and which is a healthier fat, and also it is like the quickest way to lose weight, and without really hardly changing your diet. Even like you could have a shitty diet and do the cold plunge, and as long as you're getting 11 minutes. Now I don't quote me on that. Like as long as you're getting 11 minutes per week, then you're burning more calories than you normally would anyway. Yeah. So like you're gonna lose weight, and it's not that. I'm not saying you should have a shitty diet and still try to do healthy things. Like you should always have a healthy diet. You should definitely have a healthy diet. Not that I'm a purist by any means.
We're working on it. This is Juice and Zevia. Shout out to Eric for Coons for starting us on those.
This is a beer, and it's good.
It is good.
So. Yeah. So.
But along with that, like it
also it helps with it's really just a dopamine hack is what it really comes down to. Yeah. They say it's what is it, 2.5% or a 2.5 times the regular dopamine hit, which is actually
and it's longer lasting.
Yeah, they say it's kind of like taking cocaine, like a hit of cocaine, but as where cocaine lasts like
10 minutes,
9-10 minutes, like this lasts like up to
2 hours,
2 to 12, like 2 to 12 hours, I think is what they've said.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of little micro changes. It's outside. But getting back to where we were before, so tying in the marriage and what's happening now.
Back on track. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. I feel like over the last couple, because of everything that's happening within our own country, it's made us as a couple reevaluate and look at a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we've really been thinking about like what are our goals as a family going forward? What do we want? What do we need to have in place?
It's really more like the simple survival things right at first.
Yeah.
You know, and then like what do you really need?
Yeah.
Well, you need heat, you need shelter, you need food.
Yep.
Water.
Yep. Learning skills that have been lost.
Yeah, learning the old skills.
Sourdough. I started a sourdough finally.
And just like doing simple plant identification things and mushroom identification and
for sure.
Learning soil health and learning how to companion plants and just all those little things that add up. And you can add
winterizing our bees.
Yeah, bees. That's a new thing we just took on too. Yep. Since the last time we tried to do this conversation, that is.
No, we've had them all year.
Have we?
I've been working with them all year.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well,
winterizing.
there goes my timeline.
they've been pretty happy just doing what they're doing out there. But yeah, they're an organism that you don't really affect. Like, you can help them, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do. from what I'm finding out.
Pretty much.
You know, so there's a few things.
You kind of just, it's almost like you just look and check
you
the
have to be very
colony
observant
and see what stage they're in so you can prepare for the next stage. It's learning the stages of the colony more than anything, it seems like.
And what it's telling you.
And it's like, okay, like they're here, like they're, you know, it's time to split the hive. You know, it's you know, they're not.
Do I see pollen?
Yeah.
Do I need to give them, you know, a feed source? Do they have plenty of brood going? Do I see issues? Which that was happening a lot earlier that was happening in like August, September, October. But I think towards the end of November and then the very beginning of December, when it was still decent, they looked really good. So, and I actually just went out there a couple days ago and I didn't see anything, but it was also like 30 degrees. Like there's a few dead bees at the entrance, but nothing that I would be concerned about.
Yeah.
So lots of things. There's been a lot of stuff.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tying back into our last conversation we had, so that's kind of a conversation of common vision. Like that's what we've really been trying to figure out. You know, it's not that, I don't think it's that we didn't have a common vision in the first place. I think it's more of like focusing in and getting that more detail and more detail and more detail and more detail. And as it seems, the political and cultural tensions accelerate, it just seems to, like, we have to team up even more and focus even more, and we have to kind of nail down those details faster, and that's where that chaotic feel kind of comes in, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been very busy.
Yeah.
And there's been like a lot of stuff coming and going, but at the same time it feels like, what have you done today?
Kids and holidays and
yeah,
robotics.
It feels like nothing, but when you sometimes I have to, like, what have you actually done today? And I have to like step back and be like, well, I did this and I did this and I did this, and I was like, oh okay, like there's a lot going on. It just doesn't feel as, you know, not everything is right in your face. Right, like the goats are out there and the chickens are out there and you know, all that stuff's out there.
Oh, it's that ADD thing. It's you know, the out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
It'll bite you in the ass later.
Yeah. Setting
Shit,
timers.
I forgot to feed the chickens. It's like, we've had chickens for 5 years. Why would you forget to feed the chickens?
I was feeding my sourdough, and then I realized that I needed to empty the dishwasher, and then I realized that I needed to start dinner. And yeah. Food has been our drive lately.
Yeah. I think
figuring out,
nailing down proteins, so eggs, poultry. We just did 2 rams.
Yeah, that actually turned out really great.
We did 6 ducks? Was it 5 or 6 ducks? And we did a big Cornish cross hen.
Free ranged. Yeah.
Free ranged.
A Cornish cross, and it worked.
That dude.
And it was healthy to the end, and it was up walking around. And that thing was...
He was huge.
I had to split the bird in half.
He was the size of a small turkey by the end of it. He was a small turkey. Like,
yeah, legit. Like...
He was like a 15-pound bird, if not more.
Yeah. Yeah. The last time I bought a chicken at the store, a whole chicken, that whole chicken was the same size as half of that Cornish cross. Man. Insane.
And it was, we let it go farther than it should have.
Way
it was
farther.
Like 12 weeks? 12 weeks old?
It was
3 months. I think it was right at 3 months.
I think so too.
It was, yeah, I think they were 3-month birds, and we let the pin feathers come in. But
I'm not
whatever.
even mad. We had a lot of stuff we did over the summer, and I think we both agreed that going forward next year we'll make tweaks and adjust and do better. But
we'll make tweaks and then learn that those tweaks didn't turn out. We didn't do those when we said we should have done them, and we'll have to make more tweaks.
Do it again.
And do it again.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Yep.
But anyway.
It's been neat. It's been a nice journey, and it honestly feels.
Yeah.
I know, like, doing what I do, like doing the housewife thing, it really does get a lot of heat from a lot of outside sources sometimes, right? You know, that isn't, in this day and age, that lifestyle isn't necessarily looked up to, right? Like, someone's like, oh my gosh, where do you work? And I was like, oh, I work at home. And they're like, oh. Like, I actually get that. Oh. I was like, no. Like, I don't get to walk away from my job. It is here from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, and it's full time. But at the same time, it's rewarding, right? Because you enjoy what happens, and the kids enjoy it.
Yeah.
You guys come home to home cooked meal, and clean laundry. It's not usually folded.
Well,
but pick your battles.
I definitely appreciate coming home to a home that's taken care of, instead of left for weeks at a time because no one can get to it.
And we're all working.
And everyone's working, and
which I did for a minute,
and
that sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. The kids didn't like it. You didn't like it.
And then everyone's stressed out because the house looks like.
And you still have to cook. Like, you still have to do the things.
Yeah, you still have to do everything.
It's
It's just late nights and bitchy parents and bitchy kids.
Yeah.
And kids that don't do their homework because the parents are too busy cleaning up after everything, and then you get behavioral issues because everyone's just stressed out and pissed off, and now everyone needs medication, and then that causes more issues, and then we have shitty diets, and that causes more issues. And then next thing you know, you have a 10-year-old that weighs 200 pounds and needs to go get diabetic treatment. So
we're not actually talking about Ian.
No, I'm not. I was not talking about. No, I'm not talking
Ian and
about
Kendall are very great.
Kids. They're very healthy. Obviously, like.
Yeah. I really appreciate you going to work and giving me the space to be able to stay home and do those things. Like today, I made bagels, and that was a big process. And soup, there's a huge kettle of soup.
The stuff
from scratch,
I appreciate coming home to.
Yeah, like I enjoy it. I don't like my apron.
So, the common vision, building that common vision. That's just kind of like rides into it. I think getting, now that we've started to nail down more details. Yeah. And we've spent for the first 6 years that 7 years we were together, we really didn't even think about trying to come up with a vision necessarily, not together at least.
No, because for the first multiple years we were doing the military thing, and that in itself just keeps you going. Yeah, you're just flying by the seat of your pants there, right? Like, pretty much, you're just being told what to do. Yeah, like get ready to pack and then move boxes, and then unpack boxes and save boxes.
But even still, that was the first 3 years of our marriage was the military. Yeah. So that's not even the majority anymore.
No, we've been here. We moved back here in 2016. So
15.
Yeah, 15.
2015.
15.
Yeah.
I think we've been at this house almost 8 years.
But even something like that.
And I think the first 5 we were like, let's move.
The first 5.
How do we get out of here?
The first 5 I was trying to burn it down for an insurance claim.
Not really. But maybe. The last couple years, it's been okay. Well, it looks like we're not moving. Yeah. How do we take the property and how do we make it not
really
suck?
Settling into that nice warm Stockholm syndrome?
No, it's nesting.
It's Stockholm syndrome to this place. No, yeah,
I nest
get it.
inside,
Nesting.
you nest outside.
Yeah, right. Nesting outside. Looks like cutting down trees and digging holes.
Yeah, it's working the land. It's working the house. It's
It really
making
is.
it what you want. Like putting physical.
Like, oh, you're just cutting down trees, but it's like, yeah, well,
I have a plan for that.
got like another acre worth of pasture coming in. So
speaking of, we got goats this year.
Goats
and sheep. And when we first put them on that section of pasture that you and Ian busted ass for, it was completely overgrown.
Yeah.
And now, like, they
need to move.
Like,
they need to
it
move
is
now.
open. You can actually walk out there and you can see down into the woods, which is incredible.
But that's the plan. That was the plan from the beginning. It was to get those goats.
Yeah.
And the plan was just the goats. And then all of a sudden we have sheep. But that's another story.
I knew we need.
It's another story. The plan was just to get the goats, and they were to eat the underbrush, and then I wanted to go in with the weed eater and the sickle blade, and just start taking out all the underbrush, all the underbrush we could. Really, it just came down to the saplings.
Yep.
Whereas the goats, they didn't eat all the briars, but they ate most of the briars, and they ate like any little limb and leaf they could get to.
For sure. And they chewed on stuff. Like once you would go,
they started stripping bark. Like they started stripping bark on the saplings. So like by the time you get to it, the trees are basically dead, and all your big trees are still left, and you're just going through and taking out all the underbrush and all the saplings that you can cut down with the weed eater. Yeah. And then so now you have just top canopy, and everything underneath it you can sow into grass. You can start planting under, because being it's a north facing hill, and you have nothing. You have nothing as far as like tree line goes, as far as underbrush. Like all like the sun rays can really penetrate into that canopy.
Late fall, when we took that nice long walk, I noticed that. Yeah. Like back by the round pen, there's a couple areas where it is in the tree line, but at the same time, the sun comes like right over top of it in the morning. Yep. And it is so gorgeous. Like
it's so pretty.
There's no grass.
Not yet.
But there's space for grass now, and there's light that's coming, and it's actually getting through the canopy. Mm-hmm. We lost a couple trees in a storm or two earlier this year, and
I've been taking out smaller trees too, which that opens up the canopy too a lot, because you're taking out a few of those mid-range canopy.
Found some really neat nut trees back there.
Persimmon tree.
I saw a new persimmon tree right down here by Paul's house too. Oh. Like the wind from last night knocked a whole bunch in the road. Oh, cool. Yeah. So learning how to harvest things like that and paying attention, that's a journey. Like that's something we're trying to do better at. Foraging.
Learning to forage.
But everything has seasons, and not only being able to know what to pick in season, but knowing how to pick it and process it. Yeah. In a timely fashion, along with everything else.
How many people do you know that know you can make flour out of acorns? There's not very many people.
There's not a lot.
If you walked up to someone,
I have not done that, by the way.
If you walked up to someone and said, "Hey, this is acorn flour," like what? Like what? Acorn flour? Like the nut that comes off the tree. Like, yeah. You just process the whole thing. Yeah. Grind it into flour and break bread. Yeah. Or I don't know. Maybe it's not glutinous.
Might be crackers.
Might be a cracker. I don't know.
We haven't tried it, but I would like to. That was something we did not do very well at, and was it this year that it was last year that there was a bunch of acorns, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of acorns every year, really. Or like mulberries, how quick they come in.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But that one I want to make mulberry jam, and then by the time they're ripe, and then out,
you remember to take the basket or whatever outside. The birds have already picked them.
Yeah, the birds eat them usually, so you have to net them.
I did. Yeah, we have to net them. Yeah. Speaking of nets, we got some nets this year for fruit trees.
So this will be the first year coming in.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
We have 4-year-old trees. I think they're 2 when you get them.
We put them in the ground.
I think they're usually.
This is their second season in the ground
2 to
here.
3, yeah. So there's 2 years in the ground here, but
Yeah.
they're like 2 to 3 years when you buy them usually.
Yeah, I think so.
And then this will be the first year for fruit.
We didn't allow them to fruit. We picked all the.
Yeah, take all the buds for the first 2 years. Let the roots kind of travel.
Same with the blueberries. The blueberries, I picked all the buds off, and they were loaded last year.
The goats took care of the damn blueberries.
They'll be back. It'll be fine. Speaking of, I need to remember to sprinkle some sulfur around the blueberries and the grape.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's always stuff. There's always stuff going.
I'm gonna go back to our list that we were talking about today.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah. So we did kind of prepare for it. Not really, but I wrote some questions down that I'd like to hit up on at work. Sent them to you.
Yeah.
Just let the audience know.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit prepared, but it wasn't necessarily that we went over the questions together and then prepared answers. It was like I came up with questions. It was like, hey, I'd kind of like to talk about this, and they're open-ended questions mostly.
Yeah.
And just we're gonna be honest and
let's do it.
Yeah, kind of roll through it and see how it goes. And
what's your first question?
I want to go back and I would like to go back and we'll talk about myself a little bit here. I would like to start doing a regular podcast.
Yes.
And I've been giving it a lot of thought for a few years, and it really comes down to like I'll play with it, I'll play with the idea, and then like I'll come up with something like, you know, like maybe I'll do it like this.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll do it like this. Like, no, maybe I'll do it like this. It's just that ADD brain that's just. And then on top of that, you got like so many other things you want to do too.
So many.
It's really that I think I've played with the idea enough that I feel like maybe trying to discipline myself with it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I've been talking to Eric here actually just today. Actually, I was talking to Eric, and he sent me I was talking to you about doing this recording tonight, and then he sent me another podcast about like how to start a podcast, and then I was like,
you guys would be great together.
Actually, it's kind of funny you sent me this podcast because I was talking about doing a podcast with Emily, blah blah blah, and it's like, well, I've really been thinking about like getting some Bluetooth microphones so we get better sound quality, and just kind of setting up a little spot, getting some better lighting, better cameras, stuff like that. And Eric was like, huh, that's funny, because like 30 minutes ago I was thinking the same thing. And I was looking up like how to do split screen, the platforms, and do like Zoom conversations and stuff like that.
That would be really cool.
We get a computer, get set up, get a space set up.
Yeah.
Do something a little bit more consistent, build an audience, and just see what we can do.
Yeah.
See if we can start going against the machine a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important that right now, in our time right now, with our political chaos that's going on and the cultural chaos that's going on, is right now we have free speech. And we were talking about this in the kitchen earlier.
Yeah.
Like we rant at each other after I get home from work. We rant at each other. And we just go on about like all the podcast shit that we listen to usually. But we were talking about how it's right now we have free speech, and there are so many places like Canada, places in Europe, in the UK,
they're cracking down.
Germany, Russia. Like there's so many places right now that you speak out against the establishment and you go to prison.
Yeah.
and that's the light end of it. You know, going to prison is the light end. And actually, I was listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson and another guy. He was talking about. He was actually, I cannot remember his name, but he was talking about the surveillance state, and he was an actor in the UK, and he just got out of prison because he spoke out against some of the policies going on in the UK, and they actually went into his house and arrested him and took him to prison because he spoke out against the policies, which is like outrageous. So I'm like,
yeah,
you know, and then at the end of that podcast, and this is where I was finally like, you know, like, okay, I want to do it. But at the end of the podcast, both of them, they both kind of like looked into the camera and they said, look, like, we don't have long. If you're in the United States, we do not have long. They're coming for free speech. They're trying to cancel free speech.
Yeah.
And if you have something to say, as a population and a society within America, you need to say something. And we were kind of both before this talking about, you know, be silent, you know, and silently prepare for violence is kind of like the motto, I guess, of our conversations. But it was my comeback to that was, you know, if we're silent, then they're winning.
Yeah.
You can prepare all you want, but if you're silent as a population, they are now winning.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to shut up. They want you to just shut the fuck up and go about your business and be the cog in the little machine. And, you know, hey, you know, just who cares? Who cares what's in your food? Who cares? You're gonna die anyway. Just eat what we give you. You know, like, you just go to work. 10-hour days? Is that what you need? 12-hour? Okay, 12-hour days. How about that? And how about we just, you know, work you until you, or just, how about no work? How about we just give you no work because, you know, our economy sucks.
How about you did something that we said you did, and now we're just gonna like.
How about we just
turn
like.
off your banking shit.
How about we just shut down the economy for 2 weeks to, you know, curb the bell? Is that what they said?
I don't remember how they said it. I remember like the moment they did that, I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Right. Like, no, you know what? Like, why don't
now it goes downhill.
How about I just learn how to plant a food forest, learn how to raise my own protein, learn how to communicate with my community,
mm-hmm.
and get on a good basis with my local community, and we build a foundation from there,
mm-hmm.
because that's the foundation that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's that we have relied on enterprises and corporations so much, and we saw how that failed. Like,
people can't do things we just
for
saw
how it
anymore.
failed, and it's almost like it's like they want you to forget that COVID happened, and now it's almost like they want you to forget that COVID happened.
Yeah.
And hey, you know, don't worry about starting your gardens, and don't worry about having your own chickens, and
like,
and it's like, you know what? In fact, like, why don't we just throw shit in the chicken feed so that your chickens can't lay eggs?
That was real.
That was real.
Our chickens legitimately stopped laying when we were feeding a certain kind of feed.
Yeah.
And the moment we switched feeds, egg production came back.
And then the moment we went free range with them,
there was no problem.
There's no problem. No issues. But as soon as they rely on that feed, egg production starts going down until zero.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, I started doing herbalism stuff, and I am by no means very good at it. But we all got a cold something. We got something a couple weeks ago.
Probably COVID.
It was rough.
It was probably
COVID.
Probably COVID.
And we all had a lot of mucus, and I got some mullein, and we started making mullein tea. And literally I had dry cough with nothing coming up, nothing was happening. It's dry here, like, but both here and here are completely full, right? For days, just cough, 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 nothing's happening. 1 cup of Mullen tea, 30 minutes later, and I was started like hacking up the mucus. Like insane how fast that worked. But at the same time, I had gotten on Google to see like the dosage, like how much Mullen do you add for a gallon, you know, whatever. And there was actually articles that was being fed to me that was telling me, you know, watch out, it might be dangerous, doesn't actually work, you know, things like that.
Well, it's not like our bodies, I don't know, evolved and adapts to this climate so that we can use the plants around us, right? Like,
right.
No way.
Yeah.
So anyway, the questionnaire that I sent. So, other than because I bugged the shit out of you, why would you agree to sit down with me and have me berate you with questions?
It is by far not my favorite place to be in front of the camera.
We spoke about
this.
Yeah, we discussed this.
Yes.
In
it's not
somewhat length.
Yeah, I like being the person to help people get things done.
But people love you. People actually look up to you.
That's fine. I would rather just like quietly help them make some shit happen, right? Like I prefer that. That's where I find joy. Like I like being in the kitchen and getting the food and sending it out. Like I don't like to be, but I think there's like the stuff we're doing needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
And
also, that's the place that you're used to being. It's your comfort place.
Maybe, but that's what I'm good at. I'm good at those things. I'm good getting like all the things ready, and then here it is. You know. Yeah.
But have you ever just tried being presented with someone else saying, "Here it is"?
No.
And then you're on the receiving end and in the light, you know? No.
I don't know what. Why? That's why. I think it's important for people, especially if you're going to start a podcast. I think it's important for people to know your family, know who's around you, know what you are about, us, what we're about.
Well, I'm sure plenty of they'll pick up that the cat kind of ran out from under the couch, and they'll pick up that Kendall's walking through the room right now, and kids are getting showers, but you know, do what you can where you're at.
Well, this is life.
It's life.
Like this is family.
It's genuine. It's authentic.
Yeah.
And that's what people miss the most is genuine, authentic situations, and that's. In fact, like it's like the more set up the scenario anymore, at least with a conversation, you know, people want to see that realistic conversation, and the more it's set up like the talking heads of CNN and Fox News now, like look at their ratings. Where are they at?
My favorite was when COVID happened and everybody went home, and I had to call. Because I usually do the paperwork end. I would have to call customer service of some kind, and I would catch a lady or a dude, whatever. But then all of a sudden you'd hear like a door slam and like kids going off in the background. Or like one time I heard like a door open and they're mom, you know, like a little kid. You heard the vacuum in the background. I'm so sorry. Close that door. You know, like it's that stuff. Like it's. Seeing other people authentically makes you feel connected.
In a world of social media and Instagram filters and AI projected, you know, bullshit and videos and perfections and like not even the fake perfections.
Yes.
It's almost refreshing.
It is refreshing.
Well, it's not just all. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It is refreshing.
Yeah.
To be in somewhat of what should be that cubicle professional setting and just hear the kid in the background like slamming the refrigerator door and something crashing on the floor, you know, like it's just It's like, oh, okay, real life happens elsewhere too.
Yes,
okay. Yeah.
We're all the same.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe by doing, you know, by showing your authentic side a little bit more, it will help you connect in other places.
Also, it makes you look. I've got a fucking bitch face. Yeah, and really,
I look really grumpy.
I have a resting bitch face, and when I am just going about my day deep in thought and walking through the corridors of work.
Solid RBF.
Solid, and I do not look approachable. But I think putting yourself out, kind of like this, and being a little bit more genuine and being a little more authentic, and it at least shows people that you have an approachable side. So you can't approach me. I usually am a nice person. Usually.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I'm a pretty nice guy.
I'm nice too. I just look grumpy.
Yeah. It's just... Yeah.
That's it. That's why I agree to...
That's why you agree.
Also, because you bug the shit out of me.
And also because I bug the shit out of you.
That's okay. I bug the shit out of you too about different kinds of things.
Yeah. So, growing up, I know we've discussed your childhood a lot.
Yeah.
And it can be touch and go on the emotional sides of it.
It's okay.
But I know me growing up, it was a little odd. I don't really like to talk about it. It's not that it was horrible all the way through. I'm not going to say that it was.
How about complicated?
It was very complicated.
Yeah.
And there were points that I enjoyed. There were points where it's like you have a lot of mixed feelings about certain things, where it's like, well, this is a moment that I enjoyed, but under the circumstances of this mindset, I enjoyed this. You know,
I think I would.
So that's kind of where I find that the complications of looking back on childhood is like, you know, like I enjoyed this in the moment, but under that mindset, I enjoyed that. And now as an adult, I'm like, that might have been a little messed up. Okay, that's probably not the...
That was a little T.
That was a little T.
Maybe a big T.
Little trauma, big trauma.
Gabor.
Yeah. Matei Gabor. That's... He got, well, I guess both of us, for sure, he got me looking into childhood trauma kind of stuff. Reading the books. And what was the one I just...
The Body Keeps the Score.
Childhood Disrupted.
Childhood Disrupted.
That wasn't Matei Gabor though, was it?
No. No.
He did the ADHD child one. Scattered Brain. That's what it was. It was the Scattered Brain. That was a good one. If you have ADHD, or if you've been told you have ADHD, maybe you should look into it a little bit more. It could be a superpower. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Me or just throwing that out there?
Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Both of you. Yeah. Both it could be a superpower.
Oh, I know there's something. There's something.
It's in there.
But at the same time, if...
That's survival brain.
I don't see how you can't not have it.
By now.
The more...
Yeah, now.
Like, living this lifestyle, there are so many, like, micro things that have to happen every single day that like, your brain just, like, jumps. And I don't understand
that's the
how
life, like,
couldn't do that.
Yeah, but you're bouncing through a lot of projects throughout the day, all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas someone that has ADHD, or let's say it's diagnosed ADHD, whether it's an existed, that's another argument. You know, there are those arguments out there that just doesn't exist. I was like, okay, fine. It's just, you could say it's just that you need more self-discipline. I get that. But there's also chemical effects that happen within your brain that you just can't control, and it just throws you out.
My perspective on like those things are, I agree with Matei Gabor that it is.
I do too.
Child trauma.
Dude, it is. It's
brain damage.
It's that switch that just turned on, that said survival mode, and it's never turned off because that's how you're used to running. It's
brain damage.
It is.
Like there's.
It is.
By being put in certain situations, it harms your brain to a point where you cannot, I mean, it's attention, you're physically not capable of paying attention because your brain physically cannot do it because it's damaged.
I mean,
yes.
I can understand his
At least that's my
argument.
perspective.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on it though, and say like that's just humanity. You know, like look at humanity's history, like the majority of humanity.
Sure.
I mean, that's just traumatized humanity at that point.
But it's still, like, scientifically, that's what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
So
scientifically looking at it, you could say, you know, there are those situations that that sends you into such a shock within your body that it dissolves gray matter. That's brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now.
That's spanking your kid. Yeah, I'll say it. That's spanking your kid.
You're not supposed to hit kids. If you're not allowed to hit an adult when you feel like it, then you shouldn't be allowed to hit a kid.
Well, I mean,
if you feel like it.
To spank your kid is to tell that kid that the person in charge of you that is supposed to be loving you and protecting you is so frustrated with your behavior that they will act out in violence.
Physically harm you.
Which, as a practice, I don't agree with.
I don't agree with. As a kid that got whooped plenty.
You can argue. You can argue to me that
because it still hurt me.
Your daddy and your grandpa did it, and so I'm going to do it that way. And I'm, you know, and all those other, you know, I'm happy that I got spanked, kind of, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I don't care. Like gaslight yourself all you want. But
yeah. Same with like I've heard like boys need a more physical hand. And I will definitely say
boys need a physical hand.
Boys and girls
not
do
like that.
Get raised differently.
Boys need rough and tumble.
Yes.
And as a punishment, it should be rough and tumble with their dad, putting them in their place, not hurting them, taking them to their limit.
Yeah.
Without
hurt their physical body.
Hurting them.
Yeah.
Take them to their physical limit and show them that they can go to their limit physically.
Yeah.
And work them over. And if you're a fat ass dad that can't do that, sucks to be you. You're not being a good dad.
Guess you're gonna be doing it too.
But like, you know, take them to their limit.
Yeah.
Whether it's some sort of exercise.
Yeah.
Whether it's some sort of like rough and tumble that, you know.
I like that nail. Have you heard that nail?
The nail. Oh yeah, the nail on
the nail wall.
Well, nail on the board.
That's more for anger.
Yeah, that's an anger management thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the question being that I was going to get to is how was your childhood? Well, it kind of flows. The questions flow. So let's just start off with the first section of it. Is how was your young childhood growing up? Like how do you remember it?
We were homeschooled. And there was definitely always financial hardship. So we stayed home a lot, all the time. We just stayed home all the time, except on Fridays because we'd go to the homeschool, you know, PE, right? And then you go to church on Sunday. And for a time, I think when we were younger, we were in a different church, and we did do church on Wednesday nights too, but it was kind of complicated too. Like there were definitely moments where we had fun, but then there was like a lot of it was kind of difficult. I know my mom and dad, they both really wanted Christmas was always a highlight. Like my dad and mom always really tried to make Christmas special and magical. Regardless of how hard it was financially for them. Yeah. And like as an adult, I really respect that because I can't imagine how hard that was. That was difficult. But it.
I know looking back at my childhood, that was a really special time for our family too, and
yeah.
I know we were both very Christian family.
Yeah.
You know, typical.
We wore skirts, never cut our hair.
Typical Midwestern Christian.
Yeah.
Type conservatives.
Yeah.
And that's a very special holiday. I mean, in general, it's a very special holiday, and worldwide. And I remember our family. That was always a highlight as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was Thanksgiving, Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and then New Year's was kind of like a blah.
Oh man, that was actually kind of nice. So we would have Christmas at home, and then New Year's always was spent with my dad's family. It's like Uncle Ray and Aunt Lynn, like Connie and Roger and Nancy, and like Ron and Don. Everybody up there. Oh, it was nice. It was so nice. All the aunts and uncles would get together, and most of the cousins. We were on the tail end of the cousins. So we were the younger cousins, and there was a few more, like Ray's kids were our age, and Connie's kids were our age, but all the older cousins were like married, like they were getting married, so they weren't around. But we'd hang out, and like the adults would do their thing, and we'd always have snacks, and usually get together at Ray's house, and the cousins would go crazy, and then, you know, the uncles would get a little drunk, and they'd be fun. They'd come mess with the kids a little bit, tease us, poke fun, whatever.
Yeah.
But then we'd all stay up, and we'd always watch the ball drop. And
I remember meeting your dad's family a few times. They're always a fun time.
They were a fun time.
Doesn't matter what time of year it is.
Yeah. At midnight, they'd all go outside. It's tradition. They'd fire off a shotgun. In town, out of town, didn't matter. They'd all do it. So that was a good time. We had animals, which I think this might tie into another question. We had rabbits growing up as kids, and we had some dogs and cats. So there were chores that children were in charge of taking care of. Rain, snow, sleet, or hail, every year, all year. And in doing so, it, I think, taught me work ethic, right?
Yeah.
Like, take that 50-pound bag of feed and get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad was always...
It's heavier than me.
My dad was always good at assigning me jobs, so...
But...
It was always something to do.
I have kicked myself. I hated it then. Just... I hated it.
Yeah.
As a kid. I hated doing chores. But we talked about now. Funny now, like, as an adult, like, it was kind of like, I brought the chickens home. And, you know, I brought the goats.
It was your idea to get the sheep.
I know.
I mean, I'm all about, like, the fowl. I like ducks. I like the chickens. I like that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm probably notorious for spending too much money on too many plants.
Oh, me too. I don't care. Like, that's one place that I have expensive taste. It's just like in plants.
I want the purple tomato.
Bring me the exotic one that you can't find.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I grow this orchid for at least 3 months out of the year in my
Seriously,
greenhouse?
I'm still going to grow a vanilla orchid.
Oh yeah.
A vanilla orchid.
We're gonna do this in the greenhouse.
Yeah. But in doing chores, like, that taught me how to take care of animals.
So that's a good segue into the next
Huge.
question.
Yes.
How do you feel? Do you feel as though how you grew up helped you or hindered you as an adult?
I feel both. I feel like it helped me.
That's a big conversation. That's almost
it's almost its own conversation.
That's its
but
own
I'll touch
conversation.
very briefly. So for the first 15 years, we lived in I think it was like 200-year-old farmhouse. It was old and drafty. It had one furnace downstairs. There was no central air. There was one, REMC was great, and if you live anywhere near us, you will understand what they're like. So there was like one window unit downstairs. So the summertime, it got hot upstairs, and in the wintertime, it got cold. Like, I remember setting a glass out one time. I don't remember what happened. It had to have been like an ice storm or something crazy, but we didn't have heating in the house. Like, so Dad got like those those round kerosene heaters that have like that
Yeah.
that metal like
The old kerosene heaters.
right. Yeah. So we had like those in the house in the middle of winter, and I remember like I woke up one morning. I set a glass on the floor, and it was iced over in the morning.
Inside.
Upstairs, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it was old. And we had well water, and not every summer, but I remember it being a thing that sometimes you would have to be careful how much water you used because you could run the well dry. And if you did that, like there was no like that house was not hooked up to city water.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were just shit out of luck. No shower, no toilet, no whatever, you know. So in growing up the way I did, I think it prepared me to not be afraid to rough it. I like my air conditioner.
Of course.
A lot.
Of course.
And I like my heat, and I like my Wi-Fi and my electricity. But at the same time, I know what it looks like to not have it, and it doesn't scare me as bad as I'm sure it does some people. I understand what it looks like. It might suck, but at the same time, like
it's doable.
You're gonna
be fine. Sometimes it can even be more enjoyable to just kind of like let the rest of it go for a minute.
Feels a little bit more authentic, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how our grandparents grew up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least my grandparents.
Yeah.
You know, wintertime was a wood stove.
Yeah.
And if you ran out of firewood, sucks to be you.
Yeah.
And if you got to traipse out in the cold or the snow, go get it.
Yeah. Okay. So, that same farmhouse, there was Esther, the Amish lady down the road. As a kid, there was an Amish lady that her husband died of a heart attack very young. I think he was only like 30, 35, and widow. And she had a farm, and so sometimes us kids would go down there and we would help her. And I remember helping. I mean, she hung clothes outside all winter.
She'd freeze dry her clothes.
Like, I remember going like this to her. I remember going like that to her towels on the line, and she popped her head out that door. She's like, "Don't do that, they'll shatter." Like, she yelled at us. Because, like, you want it, like, it feels weird. Right? If you would move it, it would go crunchy.
Yeah.
It would be crunchy, but it would actually snap. It was so cold.
Yeah.
So we helped her, like, chop wood and, you know, like, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but, like, the way the Amish do laundry. I'm pretty sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
They hook it up to a generator, and then you have a tub, and then you got like do the wash like this, and then you have another tub with clean water and the wringer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta feed it through the wringer.
We got to use the wringer, but only the older kids, because
don't get your fingers in.
You wouldn't have fingers.
What fingers?
What fingers? So growing up like that, it just exposed me to a different way of life that I, as an adult, appreciate. I appreciate because if I had to, it showed me how simple and easy, how simple life could be. Not easy, because like doing things that way definitely is more time consuming. But it's still doable.
Yeah. So, coming out of that lifestyle, what, let's say, as a young child, what would have been, let's say, your dream lifestyle? And maybe it was more of an expectation, not necessarily a lifestyle. Like maybe it could be more of like an expectation of something that you wanted out of life.
Yeah.
Maybe not that life should give you, but something that you could try to strive and achieve for.
Well, that's easy. I've always wanted like financial stability, and just growing up as poor as we did has been like I carried forward a little bit of like financial trauma. So because of that, I I wanted wealth. I wanted money. But I wanted it because I wanted to be comfortable and not have to live like that again.
So not necessarily like the fame and riches and driving Ferraris and going gambling and shit like that. It's just more like you just,
it's shiny and sure, but like
to
I didn't
be
want
sustainable.
I didn't want it to suck.
You don't want to have to worry about your lights being on.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, the next, like,
I wanted the big house, and I wanted the nice car, and I wanted, the income that you don't ever check your bank account. There's lots of money in there, and you just do what you want to do, and then, you pay your bills, and it's fine. But that's not realistic, and it doesn't work like that. And now, my goals have definitely changed, right? Being well off looks like a well-stocked cast irons area, and like glass to cook with, and
stoneware.
Stoneware, and like my goals have definitely changed, but I still want to be comfortable. Just I want to be able to go to my freezer now and pick out meat that
it's a different kind of comfortable.
I want to know what I am putting in not only my body but like my family. So
it's the comfort of knowing the quality. And not and knowing that you earned it. Not necessarily it was just thrown in your lap. I'm
not gonna say that money isn't attractive, right? Like I think everybody would love $1 million.
Nah, I'm good.
I have a lot of things I would like to get.
I have a few more cast irons. Yes. A few more cast irons.
My goals have changed. I know exactly how I would use that, but it's not the drive that it used to be. And there used to be a level of dissatisfaction within myself because I wasn't reaching that goal, right? Like we didn't have the house that I thought I wanted. We didn't have the thing, right? Like, but after switching goals, I don't really miss it.
That comes also to the development of a common vision with us too, I think.
I think so too.
It's more of a stable vision with the two of us leaning into it versus, we're both going two different directions.
And it's realistic.
It's not that you have your idea of what your life should be and how I should live to fulfill your dream lifestyle.
Right.
And it's not,
that's selfish.
and vice versa for me as well. It's that we finally you come together and you talk about.
All right.
Okay. We've been here long enough. We've been doing this long enough.
What are we doing?
Like, what actually is our goal? Like, what are we, besides, like, making sure our kids, get through school and they don't go hungry. And, besides that part of it. Because that's coming along just fine. What else can we do? And, I think it's just
bettering everybody's quality of life.
Trying to better everyone's quality of life as far as the family, and then just trying to pull out of that government economical system and become more self-sustainable.
That's gonna take a minute. That's what I would do with that $1 million.
That's what I would do with that $1 million.
Kendall asked me that the other day. She's like, "What would you do with $1,000?" I was like, "Dude."
1,000?
She said 1,000,
oh.
And then she changed it to $1 million. I was like, $1,000 wouldn't do a lot. Like $1 million, like, pay off the debt, might get like a spot cat, I don't know, get solar, might dig that well we've been talking about.
Might? No. There'd be
it would happen.
There'd be a lot of stuff
happening.
This place would turn into the Garden of Eden.
She's like, so you wouldn't leave? I was like, no. Like I would just like keep doing things. Yeah. So
I don't know. $1 million bucks. That might be a little more enticing to go out west and find a place like
property
next to
that has running water on it and a fish.
A place where I could go hunt elk and you know, moose and stuff like that.
I want to go catch a trout in the morning.
Yeah.
Smoked
Walk out,
trout.
go walk out to the lakeside and like cast out and get me a bull trout before I even wake up.
That would be nice.
First thing in the morning, just like
Ian, go catch us breakfast. Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be so cool.
But we can find water.
We'll find some. Well, maybe we just build this place up well enough that we can go elsewhere later. Yeah. You know, retire to another place
That would be cool.
in the U.S.
Or wherever.
Let's see. Well, the last question, I think. What is your view of the world now? And what are some things you are doing to prepare for it?
Quite frankly,
I think we're kind of just going over that.
Darker than.
Okay, so childhood,
Mm-hmm.
your view of the world.
It was very sheltered and
probably a lot more innocent.
It was completely. How do I say this?
How would you say? Well, how would you describe your view of the world growing up?
It was so sheltered that I don't know that I really had a worldview.
Very well.
There wasn't. I mean, it was pretty small.
It's like no opinion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Versus now.
It was now. I think as a kid you have a very romanticized idea of things, right? Like you don't necessarily see the dark all the time and everything. And as an adult, like learning that not everyone's good. Yeah. Not everyone is going to have your best intention. Not everyone's going to look out for you and try to have your back, right? Like just because I would doesn't mean that somebody else is going to. That's been the hardest. That's been a hard lesson. Which is sad. Like I want to think that everybody is good, and I want to think that everyone's going to just look out for each other.
I think most people are good. I think most people have good intentions with poor judgment. I think that's most people's. At least that's yeah. Maybe that's my fantasy. I think most people have good intentions with poor judgment.
Maybe everyone's more desperate than we think. Like, maybe everyone's just struggling, and so when there is ill will, that's where.
I'll rant for a second on, like, my view of the world growing up. So, like, I was very much, raised in an evangelical, mm-hmm. Fundamentalist Christian home, mm-hmm. and I grew up wanting to be a preacher. I was full blown. Like I as a young kid, like I loved being in the church and being involved mm-hmm. in the church. That was my sense of community.
I was about to say that was community.
My community, and that's everyone seemed to love me. Yeah. Like that's kind of how it was. That's at least that was the view. Yeah. Going in, like everyone's interacting as a child and young teenager. You're just a goofball in the first place, but at the same time, it's everyone seems to like you until mm-hmm. they whack you on the head and tell you to settle down. But mm-hmm. most of the time, it's a good experience, mm-hmm. and so you learn to love to be there as a child. Coming out of that as an adult, it's like, wow, like that was so fake. And I'm not saying that the interactions were fake. I'm saying that
there was a few churches that we went to that they definitely were, because it's keep it nice.
Yeah.
Don't show your problems.
But it's like there's no authentic, like, you're learning about how the real world works. There's none of that. This is the teaching, this is the indoctrination, mm-hmm. and be on the lookout for all the devil's pitfalls, mm-hmm. and the apocalypse is coming soon. There's that.
Prepare to die.
Prepare to die. And But as far as like learning any sort of like, need to know information about survival, like there's really none of that.
There's no street smarts taught.
There's none of that.
There's nothing.
And then going from that Midwestern sheltered small town and getting thrown into West Coast California.
Woo!
San Diego.
Yeah, boy.
LA, Oceanside. I mean, talk about a damn culture shock. Like you learn real quick that your little worldview is not how the world works at all. like your expectations going into what you're about to go do as an adult, like you get pee slapped so quick. And you're like, oh, wow, you guys don't actually like believe and see the things that like I did my whole life. Like this is a whole nother world, a whole nother way of like interacting with people. And you can go visit California for a weekend or a week and not have to like actually learn that part. Like you can set yourself aside and for a week and be like, oh, I went to California, experienced California. No. You did not experience California. You visited California. You experienced its like little blip timeline worth of like good weather.
Yes.
And you went home.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to deal with the people.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different lifestyle.
That's a fun one. So we don't have a lot of homeless around here.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And we've discussed this a couple times because we've seen this situation all the time, and I know people that they will just hand out cash.
Yeah, handing out, yeah.
So, just, watching someone sit on a curb. There were certain people that would be homeless on specific corners in California, and you saw them at different, 20 miles down the road, and they were there, and 20 miles that way, and they were there.
Yeah.
And then the one time, I think you were with me, certain individuals sitting outside of Walmart, classic sign, begging, right? Somebody went in, bought them multiple bags of groceries, bread, a whole rotisserie chicken.
They bought them a good maybe half to 3/4 worth of a cart of groceries.
So I think they were being given the groceries when we were going into the store, and we were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Came back out, that person is gone, took the cash, left all of those groceries. And then I saw that person at, it was over by the sushi joint, and Outback and Red Lobster. They were at that intersection, and I remember, and they were standing there just trying to wave me down, and I remember getting so mad because it just blew my mind that someone would not.
Yo, dickwad, you left your groceries at the Walmart.
Begging and peddling. Yeah. It just blew my mind that people would do. Yeah.
Obviously you're not desperate.
Obviously.
Even the homeless aren't desperate in California.
No.
Yeah.
So it changes your worldview, and I'm thankful that we moved out there even for that short time, because
that was a life changer.
It was.
I'm glad we did it when we were young 20s.
Yep.
As well, because it's like you're coming out of your teens, you haven't quite figured out where you fit in the world yet, and you just need to get slapped with something extreme right away. Like the other side. You need that's a point in your life, I feel you need a slap in the face with the other side of reality to show you that everything you've been taught, there's a whole nother side that you don't know about. Yeah. And there's a whole nother experience of this world that you don't know about. And then that for me, even, and I'm sure with a lot of the other Marines that I was in with as well, bouncing around to all the different ports, our first deployment.
Yeah.
And then going and living in Japan for a little while.
Yeah.
That brings such a life value lesson just to be able to travel and experience different cultures, experience different environments and climates, and like, because now when you hear a story, and this is how I find value in that, at least now when you hear a story, let's say like someone's telling a story on a podcast, telling a story on a podcast, and they're talking about the desert, and they're talking about how hot it was, and how the sand just gets into every crevice, and and just like you can actually experience that. You can actually experience that story that they're telling, like the sand just blowing and like just beating into your face, and you're just like trekking through for the 15th mile, and you got like 40 pounds that just like wearing you down, and you just get back to the your base, and you're just got shit just caked in your eyes, and you're just like wiping that stuff out, and you can experience that story. Right? Like as someone that's been to that environment, or trench foot. Like how many people have experienced trench foot? I know a few. Not very many. And when someone talks about their feet hurting because they got too wet, like I know what that feels like. And those are just those life experiences and those life stories that not a lot of people get to experience.
I liked that there was such a heavy Latina community. Well, not just Latina. It was very diverse. It was very diverse. Very diverse. Like you had all sorts of different races.
Well, being in California, it's like 90% like Mexican anyway.
There's a different demographic on base too, though.
You know what I really do miss though is I miss being able to understand Spanish a little bit.
That's what I was getting at. So
like now that you
I had to go out in like not just I had to go off base quite a bit. I went off base a lot, right? Like I went out and did our grocery shopping, and short little white girl in California where they look at you because you're the odd white person, right? Like you're the minority. One. Yeah. And going into areas that I probably never. Do you remember that little casino? There was a casino. I don't remember what exit it was, but there was like an Albertsons or some little like grocery store that I would go to quite a bit. It was kind of like
off the 76.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Save-A-Lot or a Ruler.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would go there a lot. Only it was like a Latina mart. Right. So. It was just tucked away in a whole different community, and just having to go and interact with different types of people
because
was a really good experience.
You're
because
forced to experience
you had
people.
to figure out how to like talk to somebody, right? And like I was talking to you earlier, like yesterday I picked up lunch from the Mexican restaurant, right? Just because
Yeah. California reminders.
That's nice. And the guy speaks really, really broken English. And he and I had a short, like, really nice conversation. And I got the feeling that he was caught off guard that I understood what he was saying. And it's not that it was that hard, but I've seen in that same restaurant, like I've seen white people come in there and they talk to him like he is a complete idiot. Like I have seen people like embarrassingly just.
Well, I've learned, and this might even go to your point. I've learned over my experience of just going to different places. It just treat everyone baseline the same initially. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you think that they're, they could be the president of the United States, or they could be a fucking vegetable sitting in a wheelchair.
My motto is just be cool.
Just be cool. Like treat them the same, at least initially.
Yeah.
And then if there's some special treatment that needs to be, because there are people that just need special treatment.
Yeah. There
are those people, and figure it out after that.
Yeah.
But your first initial greeting.
Yeah.
You should be baseline the same, no matter what.
Treat everyone with respect.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. I'm glad we moved out there when we did.
Yeah.
because it really did change my worldview a lot, and I am extremely thankful. And now, like, there's issues, issues that back here would be a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Like, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? There's so many other big things to deal with.
Small time, guys.
Yeah,
Small
for
time.
sure.
It does seem like that. It's like once you're exposed to a larger
demographic.
A larger demographic, you see how a large city can flow smoothly, and then you come back and you're like, why can't a small town just like figure it out?
Yeah.
Or and I get, maybe they have some financial stuff too that they need to figure out, and they're not as rich as a big city, obviously, but I mean, it also comes down to the people managing the funds and things of that nature. But there's some frustrations coming back from a larger city, West Coast, to back to the Midwest.
Definitely. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But looking forward now, where we are now, at least, I mean, my goal, I want to become self-sustainable.
Yep.
And I know that's your goal. And I would like to start, I think it's very important at this point in time that we start kind of vocalizing what we're doing. And we're not set up to the point where we can start supplying, to different people or to anything like that. But I think there's a point to the conversation first, and then as you build the conversation and you build momentum and you can get other people into the conversation, and just the whole self-sustainable and creating community and being a self-sustainable community and a regenerative community, and bringing more and more people into that conversation, and the local people, and not just that, but like you're sparking ideas elsewhere too. It's a conversation that other people are listening to, and they're like, oh, okay, we can do that too. And then now you have multiple communities that are doing that, and those communities can communicate, and that's how it should be to begin with. Instead of like a top-down communication, you need to have like a bottom-up communication.
Across the board.
Across the board, but like it really needs to start at an individual community level. I think people in communities need to speak up and have a conversation about like how they can prepare for when the top-down system fails.
Yeah.
Because we've come really close. And in fact, I would even say
it is failing.
I would say it's already failed once.
Yeah.
I would say with the COVID thing, it failed. That was a failure. Sure. And that was just a little failure.
I think it was on its way to failing a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been failing for a while, but at the same time, like that just accelerated it, and now we're failing faster, and it's getting worse and worse.
For sure.
So, yeah, I would like to see a community built around regenerative agriculture, goods and services, things of that nature.
Regenerative lifestyle.
I know like Josh Green's got the Martin County Swap and Sell Homesteaders page. Maybe that's something that gets sparked up a little more. They need a little more communication on that local platform, and then we have we can do our own stuff
Orange
too.
County's doing
Orange County has one as well.
Yeah.
There's so many different outposts that we could contact, but
yeah, we're in a moment where we're focusing on just learning the skills and trying
learning. Yeah, we're learning the skills and the identifications and nomenclatures and all that, but at the same time, like, you get more people into that conversation, you have more information flow as well.
Oh, for sure. Like, I was talking to one of our neighbors about sourdough the other day, right? Like, I struggled for a long time to get my sourdough started going.
And
finally,
like what your hairdresser does, like the herbal salves and oils and stuff like that. Like, that's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking to her, and she gave me a few things.
And I talk to Mr. Gammon occasionally, and he, shows me like the wood stoves that, like the old potbelly wood stoves you cook on, and stuff like that, and he hooked us up with the honey, and I've talked to him about other things as well, and tapping into those resources of knowledge. Like he's an older, I wouldn't say older dude, I don't want to insult him by any means, like, but middle-aged guy, and he's been around the block a few times, and talking to those people that have just books of knowledge hidden in their brains is such an untapped, it's like an untapped well.
For sure.
And our generation should probably realize that a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we should just call it for the night.
Okay. Check on our kiddos.
Check on the kiddos, and
It's
been a while. I don't know. It's been a long conversation, but yeah. Love you.
I love you
and
too.
I look forward to pushing forward and
Me too.
more conversations.
There's always conversations.
Always
they just
conversations.
don't get recorded.
They just don't. Yeah, we have hours of conversations.
Fly
I think
on a
that's
wall
what
would
people.
learn a lot.
Yeah, but I think that's where people really like. We've had our struggles. Okay, like we've been in our place. We've been in a place where a lot of people would have divorced several times.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's the conversations like this that we just, when we're good, like we dive deep into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're bad, we cut deep because we've dove deep into each other.
Yeah.
And so we cut deep into each other.
But making
at the
that
same
safe
time,
space.
Yeah,
that
and
we're
having
both
that.
committed to holding a safe space open for the other person at all times. If the other person ever has anything to say,
Well, that's what starts the conversations. It's that safe.
we'll
honestly,
have another conversation about
that
this
is what
later.
that is, though. That's
Yeah.
what that is. It's like it's that you say, you come between the two of you and you say, here's a space between us
Mm-hmm.
where we can be completely honest.
Yeah.
And although it might hurt, I'm not going to get angry.
Yep.
And it might anger me, but I'm not going to get angry at you.
Yeah.
Because your point is valid. And it's
Right.
not that we're not going into that space, and it is a safe space because you're being respectful on both sides. You're being
Yes.
respectful to yourself,
Yes.
and you're being respectful to the other person.
Yes.
And the way you articulate and the way you approach the situation.
Yeah.
You need to think it out before you enter, quote, safe space.
And yeah.
That's where I think that's really where a lot of our conversations come from too, though, where it's like, look, I got to talk to you about something, and then it just happens,
Yeah.
and it's just open, honest, and it's like if she was talking to one of the girls or if I'm talking to one of the boys,
Well, it
it's
takes
just,
a fight out of it.
it does take the fight out of it.
Because you're like, hey, this is a thing. I'm about
Yeah.
to tell you something. It might hurt, but I still love you. And you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Right? And then just giving the other person the respect to, let them have that heads up, I think has changed everything.
It really, it's changed everything.
After we created that safe space, it just feels like skies opened up.
For real. Yeah, the sky's the limit.
I like it. I love you too.
To the future.
To the future.
Later.